Ayush, be ready. Sir is trying to join. Baxi sir, Baxi sir.
Hello there. Can you see me?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Welcome back, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you as well, sir.
Yeah. I'm trying to get rid of this.
Sir, a warm welcome to you once again.
Well, indeed to you also, all of you. How are you today?
We are doing absolutely fine, sir. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, now I can. You got me all there? It's all right?
Sir, it's all right.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, fine. So what's the menu for today?
sir. So may you be the chef. May you be the chef, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right, Dr. Good to see you. Good to see you all. Tell me when to start and I'll get like too much work to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so with your permission, so we can start. Sir, there can be two modes of operationalizing this today. Either you can take up some questions and we can begin from there if you so agree, or we can directly start with your session and take up questions at a later point of time. How
I
would you
only
suggest?
questions from yesterday, but I'm prepared to make some more.
Okay, okay,
I have a footnote on the response I made to universalizable and universality.
okay, okay.
But I can take anything else up today, as you like.
Okay, so participants, the thing is, if you have any questions, you can put them at the moment to sir, or you can put it in the chat box. We can put it to sir. If there are no questions, then we can obviously start as suggested from the point where sir had left during the other day. So, any questions to anyone, any of the participants? Okay, okay. So, sir, as of now, I don't think there are any questions, so we can start where we left the other day, and we can take up the
Okay,
session. Yes.
very well. Well, when we left yesterday, I made some noises about universality and universalizability. Tongue twister, tongue twister. Have your parents ever told you to sing how many would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? To say
Absolutely,
it
sir.
5 times would be a mistake, that's called tongue twister. How many would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I do second time right, but I can do 10 times right. So it's a universalizability. I think we first of all need considerable analytical clarity of concept that we use. Use the word Hinduism, and I to mean other direction. Hinduism is a ocean. Hindu religion, the notion of dharma, karma, artha, moksha, and cosmic law. The law faculty where I taught had a new translation, Vedi Sankaya. Law is a Vedi Sastra. But when I began teaching in the law at Delhi University, there was a journal called Delhi Law Review, not called Delhi Law Review, but Dean Shiv Shankar had called it Vyavara Nirnaya. Practical reason, Vyavar Nirnaya. So dharma is Vyavara. Nirnaya, it is Vidi. It is also Sashan, Adhikar. Adhikar Sastra. So there, what is dharma is very difficult to pinpoint. When you say, what does Hinduism? Is it universalizable or universal? First threshold question you have to make an answer for is the question, is this. What is Hinduism? What do we want to mean by Hinduism for this conversation or for this project and whatever it is? Now, if you mean by Hinduism religion, then it is neither universal nor universalizable. Why I say so? As a religion, there are many religions in the world. But broadly, students of religions draw a distinction between two types of religion. One is called Abrahamic religions, which include Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. The other are called by various names. By others are called heathen or pagan religions. A difference is in the Abrahamic tradition, there is no afterlife. There is only one life and a day of a judgment. Muslim, Islam, Sharia, or whether it is Judaism or whether it is Christianity. Secondly, there is only one God. And somebody is God's prophet, or somebody is God's messenger, or somebody is God. But there is only one God. Jews worship Yahweh. It's the element of fire. Other people worship messengers of God. That is Jesus or Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. In Hinduism, quote unquote, and of course the Semitic religions are based on one book, Kitab, the Bible, in case of Christianity. Then the Quran in case of Islam, and Torah in case of Judaism. One book. So they are called Kitabya religion in Hindi. Kitabya, one book. Semitic religions, you cannot have too many gods. One monotheistic, not pantheistic. Pantheistic is where you can have many gods. So there are broad differences between two types of religion. Hinduism, according to Abrahamic religions, is not a religion at all. That will not be universalized. Why it is not a religion? Because it is no Kitabya. It does not have one book, which is beyond human interpretation, not one book. There are many books, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Shastras, the epics, and people may take any book. And no meaning is such that every meaning is contested. Right? So Hinduism is a religion which has many gods. I think I've forgotten the latest census of God. What is it? 32 million or something? Can't remember how many gods. As if these gods and goddesses were not enough. The, the television and the movie industry have invented God. And they are worshipped. Jaya Santoshima, for example, was never in the Hindu pantheon. It was a film. And after the film was created, she is worshipped at the temple of Jaya Santoshima. And she is enshrined as a goddess. There are many other examples. So gods are invented. Gods are given in the pantheon, they are invented. The second one. Certainly, certain human beings are deemed God. Sri Kasai Baba was a human being. But there are temples of Sai Baba all over the body. He was not in the pantheon. He was not a movie creation. He was a real live human being. Satyasri Sai Baba, again a global religion now, who was himself a human being, but he said he was a god. There are many people claim to be avatars of God. So they are Upendra, right? Wise God, like my name. And if you believe in Buddhism, everyone has Buddha in him or her. There is no one Buddhism. So these are religions which have many gods. They have no one book. And there are many other differences. You can have many religions at the same time, and you will worship many gods at the same time in Hinduism. Now Ashar is coming, Ashar has come. What we in Rajkot, when I was born and brought up, I used to do eat on Monday only at one time, 4 o'clock. No meal after or before. And on Thursday, I used to go to a local dargah, which is called Gaban Shapi. I found a lot of peace. I'm not a religious person. Right? I went there. It was so peaceful and so beautiful. I spent hours just not meditating, but I didn't know what I did with myself. But I just experienced inner peace and solitude. There are many people who are converts to many religions. Mayos, for example. There are many Hindus who converted to Islam. And they have Holi as well as Eid celebrations and Diwali celebrations. They don't see anything wrong in it. There are many sects and samudai who adopt other religions as their own, into which they're born. And nobody minds it. There is also in Hinduism, so-called the broad church, if you must draw analogy, you can have a sakha devotion or meditation where the incarnate God is installed, on which entire Rigveda is based, rituals. Or you can worship with Swami Dayananda, Brahmo Sabha, Ajay Samaj, Nilakar. The God has no form or shape, no picture, no image, no temple. So they also, as Hanta Mehta, who was the member of Constituent Assembly of India. And Hansaji went to New York for the first time as an Indian delegate to drafting of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it is to Hansa Mehta that you owe no reference to God in human rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but it will draft said God. Latin Americans, Africans, Europeans, by God they meant Christian God. And he said in Hinduism we don't have any idea of one God. We have too many gods. And we can have too many gods and goddesses. What is more, there is a right to conscience which precedes right to religion. If you look at Article 25, people don't look at very carefully. Subject to blah, 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 public health, religion, etc. and morality. Subject to, that's how it begins, with a non-obstante clause. And Article 25 goes on to say, subject to these three things, everybody has a freedom of conscience and freedom of religion. Now, if you're a real lawyer, and I'm sure you are, or you try to be a real lawyer, there's not one but two rights guaranteed. Right to conscience and right to morality. It is conscience which is the faculty, moral faculty, which enables you to choose your religion. The freedom of conscience is very important for conversion. Right to conversion comes from that word freedom of conscience. I've raised with generations of students this differentiation, but they are not interested. But since this is seminar on Hinduism, let me say, it's a very interesting question. Because if you're talking about conscience, then you look at the non-obstante clause. Public health, security, and morality. Which morality? Morality will govern my conscience. My conscience may be immoral. I may be Gnostic. I may be a skeptic. I may not believe in religion. And some as I said, there are lots of Indians who are secular in this sense. They are Hindus. They worship many gods, but actually they're Gnostics. They're skeptics. They question idol worship. They question idea of God. And we in India treat them as Hindus. The Constitution itself, Article 26, right to religion, treats Jains, Buddhists, and Sikhism as Hindu religion. It says that these are to be counted among Hindus. Although they count themselves as Buddhists or Jain. They are all Indians, but the question is they're Hindus or not. The Constitution makes them Hindus. They arose in reaction to Brahminical Hinduism. Buddhism is a great example. So it's a very important area to this. So you cannot universalize Hinduism because it's inherently a religion and cannot be universalized. And it's not universal religion either. The other religions, they're equal. So what does Indian hermeneutics similarly say? There are multiple religions, multiple affiliations, and that constitutes the Hindu identity. Now, there are, of course, some people, and I don't enter the politics of it. I'm not interested, I'm not competent to do politics. I'm a law teacher and a constitutionalist. I respect politics because we get our democracies out of politics. So when people say majoritarianism, I wonder, I don't understand this term. Because democracy is a game of numbers. It used to be a game of Aram Garam, and there were 10 schedule of Indian Constitution for that. Right? So I don't judge political people as evil or bad or necessarily. It is not the subject actually. But I understand that there are certain people who equate Hinduism with Hindutva. And Savarkar was one of the first one who talked about Pitrabhumi, land of the father, and Savarkar created idea of Hindutva, by which he meant Hindu nationalism. There are two kinds of Hindutva. There is soft Hindutva and there is hard Hindutva. Soft Hindutva is political soft Hindutva recognizes minorities, other minorities, and their place in the sun of the constitution. Hard Hindutva does not recognize anything but one nation, one people, and one religion. Others are second class. So then, but I know about this. I don't talk about, I'm not talking about that Hinduism. I'm not talking about Hindutva as Hinduism. A different thing. Hindutva is a political ideology based perhaps certainly on Hinduism, but is distinct from Hinduism as a religion. And if you go to Mimamsa, I refer to, I'll end here. If you go to Mimamsa, they talk about ideas which are relevant to understanding constitutional secularism. Mimamsakaras, for example, evolved two concepts. One concept was called Bahuta, the inclusion, and second was Samanvay, which translates poorly in English as syncretism, which translates as constitutional secularism, toleration. If you are talking of Hinduism in the sense Mimamsakas discuss it, or Mimamsa discusses it, then you can say ideas about plurality and tolerance are both universal and are universalizable. Although Hinduism may not, as such, as a religion. My dear friend who is no more Chief Justice Verma has been credited of delivering a judgment. Well, of course it is rightly, he said, Hinduism is a way of life. What do you mean by Hinduism way of life? Yes, remember the election case. And he specifically mentions, his lordship specifically mentions that every community has its own utopia, has its own way of life, things to come, ideal society, Ramarajya. It's a Hindu idea. Bapuji, Mohandas Gandhi wanted Ramarajya. It's a very utopia. So, so in the judgment, Justice Verma says Hinduism is a way of life, we say. But he also says Marxism is a way of life. Because they imagine a society where there will be no exploitation by the state or by the market. So in an election case, he made this remark. But only that portion is picked up, which is Hinduism as a way of life. His idea as a judge, as a court was that all ways of life are equally respectable, respected, must be respected during electioneering. the election came. Prabhu, Lobo, I think. And I was the only one who explained this. When Justice Verma had wrote article on this judgment in Express or Times of India. And I said that don't we want election, in election time, maximum free speech, so people can choose. That's what democracy is all about. The Marxists can fly their own way. Hindus can fly their own way. Muslims can fly their own way. Can talk about Jannat, the heaven, and it is the ideal of future society. If you don't discuss it during election time, where else will you discuss it? Accepting Professor Gary Jacobson, who wrote an outstanding book on law and religion in India called The Wheel of Law, The Wheel of Law. And Gary Jacobson, the footnote with cite article. Outside Gary, nobody takes notice of what I say. And so Hindutva has emerged out of the idea it's a Hinduism, a way of life. Now, as a way of life, is it universalizable or universal? Well, again, the same question. You take your pick. If it's a religion, it is not universalized. But it preaches certain virtues of toleration, of syncretism, plurality, and it can be exported. It can become universal. It is universal. Now, too much. Now I must move on. Any questions on this?
Not from my end, sir. Is there any question from the participants?
All right.
Okay, in the interim, if you have any questions, you can always put it in the chat box.
Yeah,
Raise your hand.
I don't know how to operate chat box. Let me tell you.
I'm here.
Okay. Now, I want to discuss with you Hinduism and human rights in a specific sense. And I just want to, I don't have time, so I just want to say a few general things before I come to something. The first general thing is, there is a difference between this life, this worldly life, and other worldly life. This worldly is your one birth, and you make the best of this in order to make meaning of life. Hinduism is often called otherworldly religion because it's life after life. And the idea in Hinduism is that one is born into the human species after yugas of satkarma, the highest achievement. We're not just born as human being by accident because you've done good karma as a wolf, as a rhinoceros, as a Bhagavath, whatever, that you are born as a human being. Right or wrong is irrelevant, but that's the belief. And if you've done very good karma, then you are born as a Brahmin. Why is you born as Shudra? You are even born as woman, it's inferior to men. What my is. So essentially, there is a temporal ruler, terrestrial person who rules you, king, parliament, Supreme Court. There is authority which comes from people like you and me. Authority is either derived from the people or served by the person who rules you. There's a great thinker called Michel Foucault. He is often quoted. not by the Supreme Court, not by lawyers, but by others. And Michel Foucault, Foucault, Foucault once said a very important thing. He said, we must understand that we have moved, Western societies moved from governmentality to governance. Now, what in the name of Allah is the difference between governmentality and governance? Governmentality is the conduct of conduct, not just there is governance, the conduct of conduct. Whereas governmentality is the conduct of things. What we do, how we conduct ourselves. That's one way of expressing it. Governance is a process where you question the conduct itself or the conduct of conduct. That's it. But Foucault said that decisive development was that you move from governance over soul, mark this word, governance over soul, to governance over bodies. What happened in the West was after a long series of holy wars and crusades, with which you are familiar, which I can't go. Anyway, what happened was the king was separated from the church. The church was separated from the king. Pope earlier used to be ruling in Western Europe, all of Europe. Pope to emperor. The distinction between Pope and emperor began to be true. And the emperor or king was governance over bodies. Whereas the Pope, what was left to Pope was governance over souls. This is the process of secularization, or secularism was born. And the indicator, the example of that birth of secularism as a constitutional ideology is the United States, 17th century, when they rebelled against British. And after the Declaration of Independence, they believe in God, Christian God. But they said, we recognize elected monarchs. Those people are elected by democratic rule, by election, voting. If we exclude certain people, like women and slaves and blacks, Africans, Afro-Americans, not even voting, like what they did in the early part. But they said there's a difference between governance by human beings and governance by because of Christ, or religious holy people. You must have a wall of separation between religion and state. That is the constitutional expression. Wall of separation, which means state cannot have any religion of its own. State is not based on any religion. This is the cardinal principle of secularism in most societies today. Not the wall of separation, but the idea that the state does not have any religion of its own. You might say France is a Catholic country and America is a Catholic country because Catholicism is the religion of most people there, as against Protestantism, is the religion of most people in America. You can say that. But that's the popular way of saying it. Essentially, the difference is between secular authority, temporal authority, terrestrial authority, this worldly authority, and the other worldly. Also, I would not go into our idea of secularism. It's complex, but you know it. And this is not a seminar on constitution. But I isolated about 6 characteristics of Indian constitutional secularism. And these were happily for me adopted verbatim with exact acknowledgement by Justice Jeevan Reddy in his opinion in Bombay case. He quotes my 6th proposition and builds a judgment on that. I mentioned this fact not because he cited me, that's very kind of him, and I'm glad, but for the fact that he based his decision on what I said. And again, it's not me. Scholars can reach. Are you there?
Yes, sir, we are here. We are here.
Okay. And
Yeah.
lights have gone somewhere. Scholars have reached the way in which scholars influence judicial analysis and judicial thinking is very important. And that's one of the ideals of legal research and writing. It's not enough to write articles saying in this case the judge said this case the judge said this, because that's not a proper article. That's not a proper writing. You must add something original of your own and add that and feel happy only when courts or legislature takes into account what you say. Otherwise, there is no social purpose to scholarship. Unless the ideas or the students learn from you, whichever way you want to describe, you will have teaching should have and research should have social impact and social concern. That's my secular religion. Okay? And I hope that this will be your secular religion too. Despite all this talk of secularism, I can move to the next topic. I won't take too much time because I've given you the reading by Catherine Clementine Oza on India, that is Bharat, one country and two names. And you got the article, you kindly read. I won't expound on it. And what she argues there, what questions they ask there is why was there 3 contenders for this name, India, Bharat, and Hindustan. And we all sing Iqbal, Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara. Hindustan was very good. But Hindustan, according to some, came into being or came into usage only after the Mughal invasion. So there's Hindustan or Pakistan. Stan is where people live. So a place. And somehow, India, that is Bharat, Bharatvarsha, the idea of Bharatvarsha was a pre-Mughal invasion idea. This has been done by Savarkar also, and the Constituent Assembly, lots of people, the article talks about it. I won't talk about it. Several people said it should be called Bharat for this and that reason, that India is Bharat. India, the word India was a British invention. It was known as Bharatvarsha before British came. So some took the view that it is wrong to say India is Bharat. The Constitution says Bharat. And if you must say something called India, Bharat, that is India. But ideally, you should stop at Bharat. Bharat shall be union of states. There should not be translation. There should be Bharat version. That was one idea. Ultimately, what the constitution did a compromise and called India as it is Bharat. It's the same thing. Because there was other side which said, no, you are known as India. A lot of water has flown since Bharat version. You've been invaded twice, you've been colonized. So Hindustan went out of the constitution. And that Stan was only relevant for Sthal, was only relevant to another neighboring country called Pakistan, which had Islam was the religion of the state, a theocratic state. They are separate Islamic courts. The same is true of Malaysia, Sharia court. Same is true of Turkey, any other Muslim country. Religious law, administration by religious courts, qazis and muftis and maulas. So the difference is not merely in names, the difference in the state having a religion of its own. We decided not to have it. But how this thing happened, how this name was selected, and Catherine's article is good enough for you to read, it's not necessary for to summarize. I only want to highlight the fact that it was never the intention of constitution maker to practice what is called ethno-nationalism. Now, what is this big word, ethno-nationalism? Ethno-nationalism means majority nationalism. The constitution respected plurality, which is the Hindu idea, basically, of religion. And the Indian expression for secularism, as you now know, official expression is Sarva Dara Sambhav. Regard all religions equally. In fact, the Hindi translation of the Indian Constitution, have you ever read it? In fact, there's a Sanskrit edition of Indian Constitution also. 23 languages now, under the 8th schedule, to Constitution translated. And Bharat Sadhu Samaj, I had a copy, but I don't have it now, I'm sorry about that, published around the time Constitution was made, an alternate constitution. It was written in Sanskrit sloka. I'm not referring to that, was never adopted, that was not even discussed, but it was there. And Bharat Sadhu Samaj was strongly in favor of the word Bharat. This is an old story in some senses, but secularism prevailed, and there was a great debate about uniform civil code, but reform of Hindu law, where women were deprived of essential rights. And there are very, very nice articles by Mark Galanta, particularly one article called The Aborted Restoration of Hindu Law, where he says the constitution was taken as a charter of Hindu law reform. And Hindu men, giant Sikhs, and all this, do this also. Reform of these people, not of other religions. So the constitution made an exception to secularism in naming the constitution as Bharat, although it has no state religion, but it made an exception to secularism. It made a second exception in case of Hindus as broadly interpreted by Article 26(1). Right? And there was a kind of aborted restoration. And remember, Ambedkar resigned from the Indian cabinet in 1955 because the tardy space on Hindu law, Hindu code bill, which Rajendra Prasad thoroughly opposed. I don't have time to go into it, but the third exception we made to in the process of Charter of Social Reform is Article 17, which I call the bleeding heart of the Indian Constitution. At the time we discuss Article 17, but they never have time for discussing Article 17. Because there are a few cases and we lawyers don't worry about areas where there are no cases. It's a pity. I always thought Article 17. This is the Constitution of India. And it consists of 3 sentences. Untouchability is abolished. Its practice in any form is forbidden. And discrimination based on the ground of untouchability is an offense. 3 sentences. And it's a part of right to equality. Article 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's in your constitution. I'm not making it up. Please don't. I'm not making up stories. It is there. IC 17 is the bleeding heart of the Constitution. Why? Because it fundamentally attacks the idea of purity and pollution at birth. At birth, yeah, high caste Hindu, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or even Shudra, but not a Panchama. 5th Varna is untouchable. The frontal attack on the caste system, which some people take as essence of Hinduism. Maybe they are right, maybe they are wrong. I'm not going to that conclusion. But a horizontal equality of all human beings, the dignity of all human beings because they are born human. It took other countries, that big civil war like America, to achieve this. After 100 years, they achieved it. And the blacks were regarded as human beings, and slavery was abolished. We did by a stroke of pen, normatively at least. In reality, untouchability has lessened in urban areas, but it prevails very vastly. We'll come to that. But the point is, the attack, the temple entry was a major point with Gandhiji. And Ambedkar was for removal of humiliations as justice. Everybody's dignity was respected because it's human. And people should have a right against being humiliated. A fantastic idea of equality. Equality means person, right not to be discriminated against. Because the color of your skin, your gender, your sex, occupation, place of residence, whatever, the Constitution mentioned. So this was a part of equality rights, dignity rights, basic rights, human rights of all human beings. Not temple. The first satyagraha that Mohandas Gandhi launched was on temple entry. The first satyagraha that Ambedkar faced was a place called Mahad in Rajasthan. And what was it about? It was about sharing the water from the single well in the village. There was a great discrimination against the 5th Varna. If you were born a Panchamam, You can't draw water from the same well. I have an article where it describes 7 Ambedkars. First Ambedkar was a school-going kid and was English principal of a school, which they did not believe in untouchability, but in Baroda, Christians did not believe in untouchability. And they said he arranged for a separate earthenware pot for both of them. First Ambedkar has experienced firsthand what it meant to be deprived of water. Because you can't drink, even if you're thirsty. Because you can't draw water from there. So first, I've written about this, the significance of Ambedkar's Satyagraha, Mahat Satyagraha, lay in insistence in recognition of basic needs of the people. You can't say dignity, but dignity means several infrastructures. You must get water, you must get food, you must get land, you must get a job, you must do education, which you regard as natural for the higher caste. Questions that are not problematic. If they don't have it, it's a problem. Right? But here, it's not a problem of anybody. If they don't have it, it's a karma. And this is why this violent social exclusion. Indian Constitution does not say it, but it certainly says it also. It says we are against violent social exclusion or discrimination on any grounds. The word untouchability, however, is put in quotation marks. Why so? I asked this question very often. Why is the Constitution using the word quotation? Untouchability. We don't study Article 17, it's very question of looking at the quotation mark. But that's what it is. You look up the Constitution. Even now it is the quotation mark. This quotation mark came in a big way in Sabaripara case for women. Of course, I had worked out this whole idea a long time back. We put the taking quotation marks because inverted commas because untouchability among Hindus also resulted from several factors other than birth in a low caste. For example, one can be temporarily impure. A Hindu is temporarily impure when he goes to smashan. And the first thing to do is Sudhikaran is by having a bath. A Hindu who comes in contact with nature is polluted. And he must do penance as a matter of Sudhikaran. That's written in Dharma Shastra. Great book which by Kane, P.V. Kane, Maharshi P.V. Kane, which I read as a student in Bombay, in 4 volumes on Dharma Shastra. You'll find it there. P.V. Kane, great scholar, Sanskrit scholar, and known as Maharishi. So this is untouchability transiently. Women in menses are deemed to be untouchable for that period. I remember my mother, a small child in our school. Once in a while, she could not enter the kitchen. A slave otherwise in the kitchen, but 3 days in a month she would not. And food was served outside. She was inside a room, small room, where a job was to do gara. Gara means mud balls. spread mud over the walls and do a very nice design. Mud was not purified, but the idea was there's something to do. And I had successful women in my life, early life, my aunts, everybody went to that room. I said, I could understand why. I was a small child. I could understand why. Later on, I understood. And they can't do anything. They can't socialize. They can't meet anybody. They 3 days of solitary confinement. Awarded by the civil society, not by the state, by Rishi, by Shastrakar. Not better. So in Sabrimala, the same question came up. God did not want young people who are menstrual cycle. They can come when they have stopped the menstruation. And there are all kinds of women authors, health secretaries of Kerala government, who've written on this subject and why it is developed in Kerala. There's the whole science behind it. If you believe in that, but can you discriminate on the basis of gender? Is the main question in Sabrimala. On the one side, and on the one side, on the other side, the idea of essential right to religion, to religious practices. So I end by saying, no, I mustn't. I do sometime. Yeah, sometime. Essentially, one has to ask whether Article 17 was a mistake. One has to ask whether secularism was a mistake. One has to ask whether the state having no religion was a mistake. These are political questions. They are also juristic questions. Now, if you take Hinduism to mean in less cruel sense than Mao in China, let 100 flowers bloom. Let everybody realize one's potential. If you believe by Hinduism, tolerance. If you believe by Hinduism, coexistence of different faiths, then the juristic answer is clear. Namely, this is not a mistake. This is equality, this is secularism. On the other hand, if you believe that in hard Hindutva or soft Hindutva, which has something to do with Hinduism, but are not Hinduism, political creeds, then if you want to Semitize the Indian religion, Hinduism, you want to Semitize Hinduism with one book, with one God, you want to change Hinduism into a different kind of religion, which is based on exclusion. The Hinduism that I know is based on inclusion. So there are two types of approaches to this question. Whether our constitution, fundamental rights, and all that is a mistake. Ambedkar took the view that they are not mistakes. They are essential to modern constitution making. Secularism and one of the values report which is understudied, not studied at all in the constitutional law classes, but political theory. The wonderful thing he put in the constitutional preamble of liberty, equality, dignity, and fraternity. Fourth or fifth word of the Constitution, the word fraternity. What is fraternity? Fellow feeling. Fellow feeling. And the world listeners in India today, even today, someday they will understand. I've spent years telling people that they don't want to. the word republic. There can't be a republic without fraternity. And a fraternity, and there can't be a republic without congregation of citizenship. Without citizenship, everybody is equal. So this is the idea of Ambedkar. And he clearly took the view that while religions do exist, it is not the case that they should not tolerate each other. It is the case that they should coexist with each other and take the best from each other, like we have taken into special marriage act, takes the option of poverty from Islamic law and reforms Hindu law. Gajendra Gadkar, Justice Gajendra Gadkar was the chairperson of the Law Commission of India, and he proposed it and took the option of poverty from Islamic law. So let us take the best. Rigveda says, Ano Bhadra Kutava. Let good things come to me from every side. They are not tainted by the origin in a particular idea of tolerance. That's a beautiful idea. Not repressive tolerance. Tolerance that believes in repression, injustice. That's also intolerance masquerading as tolerance. That I'm not talking about repressive tolerance. I'm talking about tolerance, genuine tolerance, practice of tolerance. So I think now here I must take what 10 minutes more. Then stop. Take Arvind Sharma's paper into account. Arvind had long discussed with me. We never met. And he was writing his book on human rights and Hinduism. Very good book. I've given you a select of him by giving you last chapter of Arvind saying, I'm not taking account of this critique of Ambedkar of Hinduism. Not that there is not something there. Well, Hinduism must reform. And he says, I will take no account of it in my essay on Hinduism and human rights because my purpose is different. My purpose is not to say that the negative critique is useless. It is its uses. It can reform Hindu Dharma. And it should. Against treatment of women, treatment of untouchables, treatment of Adivasis and other people, disabled people, all these things. We have a lot to learn. Hinduism has a lot to learn from human rights discourse. Just as human rights discourse has a lot to learn from Hinduism. We said it's a very negative critique, but it's important critique. But he said, I'm not concerned with this as far as this article. And then he proceeds. Now this is he's a philosopher. I'm a constitutional lawyer. So obviously there'll be differences in methods. But when I look at this article, which I can't summarize for you, I request you to consider one thing. Because you are a lawyer, ask one thing of the article, in what sense are you using the word human rights? Now, he uses the word rights. But we are talking about human rights. What is the difference between rights and human rights? Is there any? Are they related? Of course they're related. I think even a philosopher is duty bound to ask this question. Another chap who died very young at Yale University, died in 1920, hardly 30 years old, is that his name was Hofield, Wesley Newman Hofield. I used to teach Hofield. And he said, right is the most abused word in the English language. And he talked about rights as juristic relations. And he formulated 4 types of juristic relations: rights and duties, rights and privileges, rights and power and rights, rights and disability, immunity and disability, rights and liability. So there are 8 types of rights. You can't delete them. This is not a seminar on opiates, so I'm not talking much about it. But if you're interested in a special session outside the seminar, always ask us to come out or something, and I'll be glad to discuss it. I'm very fond of it. I have my own classification of rights. For example, I always begin my jurisprudence classes by talking about human rights, international classes, by saying, well, one can talk of rights, but I always say oppose the tyranny of the singular. What is the antonym? What is the other part? What is the other of rights? So my class is to lawyers, so the rights are duty, right and duty. I said, fine. That's one aspect. What is the second? And somewhere it is useful to right and privileges. That's fine, right and liberty. Fine. Then I said, what third one? And very difficult for them to answer, third and fourth. Let me shorten and say, third was right and left. It's a political term. Sense of direction, which way? Left and right. In walking, in driving. Directionality. And fourth, there's nobody could answer. It obviously could answer, which was having a right and being all right. You have all the rights in the world, but you must be all right. This happened. Particularly very rich billionaires. But look at all the money in the world. By definition, billionaires. They're going to another planet now. Or they're flying above the earth or something. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know what to do with the money. So, whatever it is, so right and no right, right and all right. Now, what Arvind does, I think, is they talk about rights and liberty, rights as privileges, we understand that. Rights as claims, we understand the most. And rights as entitlement. And right as Trump. Don't say Donald Trump. Right as Trump without Donald. Donald had no use for Trump. Which are rights. Okay? There is a different one. If you allow me a side judgment, nothing to do with the court. So in a sense, I have nothing to do with Donald Trump. They're a figure of speech. As it were. So it is not clear to me whether Arvind Sharma is referring to legal rights or moral rights. Now, legal rights in the Indian Constitution have a different classification. There can be common law rights, there can be equity rights, there can be legal rights, there can be constitutional rights. The right to vote is constitutional right, not a fundamental right. Right to trade, commerce, intercourse is a constitutional right. Right to property now is a constitutional right, demoted from fundamental right. And so on, and fundamental rights, basic structural rights. And now the Supreme Court of India has gone one step further and declared primacy as a natural right, which nobody can limit. We, until Potoswamy, we never had this daring assertion that Part 3 includes natural rights. I don't want to make of it, but that's what they have said. All of them said. That's right. Privacy is not merely a fundamental right, it's not merely a constitutional right, but a natural right. Who has given it to us? I don't know. I don't want to go into it. But I'll study that. So I'm not sure what Sharma actually, for example, he says entitlement is a piece of right. What is entitlement? And he explained, good philosopher, he explained entitlement is not a right against something, right to have something. Entitlement, a very, with economic theory, Amrita Sen others speak of entitlement. My difficulty is they are not legal rights. They are not claim rights. In fact, they are called manifesto rights. Economic and political and social rights are not rights. They are called manifesto rights. Directive principles are not rights. What the state ought to do, may do, endeavor to do, but that doesn't have to do it, has no obligation to do. So my grounds against difference with Sharma is that he converts, he must be talking about moral rights. Distinction between legal and moral rights is a very important distinction. He also makes a distinction between rights and duties. And it's a Hinduism is all about duties, not about rights. And that might be your contribution. It depends, of course, on what you regard as Hinduism. I won't go into that. It's very interesting, useful analysis. Can you look at it? If you've not looked at it, if you have questions, you can ask. But I am very uncomfortable with Arvind Sharma on this aspect altogether, because he does not distinguish between, he doesn't take negative critique into account. He only wants to say Hinduism has some takeaways for the world of human rights. And it's true. We take practice of tolerance, practice of pluralism. Hindu Dharma is open to all this, as I said earlier. It's dead right. But does he need to worry about rights? Why does he worry about justice? Earlier yesterday we said, Dharma meant righteousness, not rights. Right? Remember that? Righteousness, which is different from the idea of right. So I will stop here. I think I must stop here. It's too crazy, but give me 2 minutes, and I would say the whole business of whole critique of negative critique of Ambedkar. And his classic book is nearly 1,000 pages long. His collected works. What Mr. Gandhi and the Congress have done for the emancipation of untouchables. The classic. There you find everything. You must read Ambedkar. I can't present it. Essentially what he said, it's an exercise insurgent, it's a moral insurgency against Hinduism. Moral ethical insurgency. And he essentially says, speaks of unfreedom and oppression of untouchables. Oh, no fault of theirs. They're born untouchable. You can translate it women, you can translate Girishan, you can translate other minorities. He speaks, in my analysis, of two things. One, he speaks of what is called living death. That untouchables, the distinction between life and death is abolished in case of Panchamaya. They're utterly at the mercy of the high caste system. And that is true even now, sadly. Doctor, especially, may be to teach you in certain parts of it. Because you're untouchable. An untouchable law teacher, I won't mention his name, who still today, with now 30, 35 years, is crying. When he talks about his brother, why is he crying? He was remote part in India. There's no hospital there. His brother was taken to hospital 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers to the rural area. And the doctor refused to treat him because he was untouchable. He died. It was 8 years, 9 years ago. You heard of Purandevi? It's in the movies, movie about her. Untouchable woman can be raped, can be killed, nothing happens. So living death, the concept, which is very important to Ambedkar. And I've given you Ambedkar's paper of mine. I discussed this. And the second concept is that of discrimination. Discrimination, which is called lawless law by Agamben, a great Italian philosopher. Lawless law, a law which has no elements of justice. And Ambedkar has a number of ideas about this. I am going to compare him with prominent Western philosophers like Hannah Arendt, George Agamben, others. And he talks about institutional racism of the Indian system. And no matter how high you rise, you're always untouchable in the eyes of the society. And he talks particularly because a lawyer, and he argued cases. He talks of the eternal scavenger, a very poignant phrase, eternal scavenger, in his book. And he speaks about, for example, I mentioned chapter 23, volume 5 of his collected works. We have 10 or 12 volumes. The volume chapter 25 is entitled, and you must read it, Their Wishes Are Law for Us. Their wishes are law for us. And in that, Baba Sahib quote tells you about lawlessness of the law, how magistrates and judges administer, but do not see injustice as injustice, rank injustice, discrimination as discrimination, violation of dignity as dignity. They built into them. They don't see it, they out up front. And how, when the law allows them the discretion to decide, the decision is always against answers. And he gives us example after example. So I won't go into it. Ambedkar has a negative critique of Hinduism to offer, there's no doubt about it. Arvind Sharma is right in saying that we can learn a lot from negative criticism, we can reform Hinduism. But Arvind Sharma is more interested in other things, what Hinduism can teach human rights. That's what it can give to us. I think negative critique is very important. And I still await from Arvind Sharma, another friend, that part of their essay or book which deals with how we can reform Hinduism and yet it can remain. That's the main thing. With this, I'll end the present discussion. If we have time, we'll take some comments and questions. And we can even extend some time. I speak less, I speak too much. This is not my nature, but I have to complete this as much as I could, this particular theme of negative and positive aspects of Hinduism. And with that, I rest my labors. I rest my case, if there's any case. I just say not a word more.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So I think, as you mentioned right at the beginning, what's in the menu? I think there was a lot in the menu for all, from the part of the chef, for the participants to be offered, and this intellectual discourse was really very benefiting. So there's one question, or one rather point of discussion which participants would want to hear. So you had mentioned in the last discussion that you would be discussing a little about public morality and constitutional morality. So if you have some time, sir, can we have a discussion, brief
Yeah,
discussion?
sure. Sure.
So yeah, that's one point. Is there any other question from the participants? Any other question from any participant? Anyone? You can put your question in the chat box. You can directly ask the question. Okay. So again, sir, I don't think there are any other questions. Was that the only
Very
point?
good.
Yeah, the
Well,
participant would like.
I think we discussed the aspect of morality, constitutional morality. There are four kinds of things I wrote it down from your comment. Four kinds of moralities we can talk about. One is constitutional morality. Other is public morality. Third is pre-constitutional morality. And yeah, that's a public morality. This is the same. I will cover it. So CM, PM, and PCM, right? And 4 is M, morality in general. That all morality is public, so it doesn't add too much. If you think about this four terms, essentially what I have been said yesterday was that don't forget what I said, but forget what time being. What I want to say just now is that obviously these four moralities have to be understood as distinct. Distinct from what? Distinct from religion. So morality and religion are different things. Maybe some part of morality comes from religion. But morality itself is more related to ethics, the standards you have to put. The dharmic standard or dharmic standard is different. But the moment we introduce institutional religion into discussion of morality, discussion becomes different. It becomes theological. Whether there can be, for example, immoral religion. Most people would say, no, it's a contradiction in terms. There can't be an immoral religion. But Duryodhana said, if you remember in Mahabharata, that Krishna's morality, Hinduism and Kshatriya Dharma and all that was immoral. Kshatriya Dharma was moral, but the chal that he practiced the name of Dharma. Was it? He said, you must not attack me the man is dying. You must attack me on my side because it's against rules of warfare. And you must not fight after sunset. The rules of war in Mahabharata, that early. That you must respond to a challenge. When somebody challenges you, you must respond and fight back. You can't say no. You can't depute somebody else. That's the rules of warfare. But what constitutes relation between religion and morality is the question was asking, excepting for the present purposes, we must note that there are two distinct fields. You can question a religion on the grounds of morality, as women are doing, and Ambedkar did it. As human rights people do it. Right? And so, not all institutionalized religions are necessarily codes of morality. Some religions believe in discrimination. Some religions practice evil in the name of whatever principles of purity and pollution, of inequality in the name of man-women differences, and so on. So we stay aside this question of morality, accepting this note that we take. Then they were left with three things. Pre-constitutional M, PCM, was introduced under this court by Justice Indu Malhotra in Sabrimala discussion. In Sabrimala discussion, her dissent is based on saying constitutional morality, CM cannot exhaust things which went before the CM, prior to CM. And she particularly mentions Swami Vivekananda and somebody else as precursors of constitution. They had their own ethics. And even Ambedkar can say, Ambedkar himself, Jyotiba Phule, many others. Tukaram, Ravidas, Kabir. Take a look at the festival of original Indian constitution. You'll find a lot of religious paintings by Nandlal Bose. And the calligraphic was done by somebody in Delhi. I forget his name. Very good work. So I think it's a whole field called pre-constitutional morality. It's a blend of customs, traditions, beliefs, culture, and so on. What to do with it? Public morality is morality that is practiced or attributed as being practiced by public at large. The question arose, what is public morality? Statutory morality is a part of public statute, IPC, declaring homosexuality is an offense. It is read down in Nautechor and in Nag. You can say here public morality is contrasting with the CM, constitutional morality of statute, conflict with the constitution. Or morality of public conduct conflicting with constitution. With constitutional morality, the question is who determines constitutional morality? The answer is judges. So are we going to then live by what judges say is moral? Can judges represent immoral thing as moral? Of course they can't. But that takes you back to the question, what is morality? Certain standards we prefer to live by. Question is, are these standards right? Is practicing discrimination against women? Just recently, Justice Chandrachud delivered two judgments on women in the army. I wrote about it. And he said discrimination, men officers can become male officers, can continue up to X number of years in service, active service. Women cannot do beyond 5 years. He struck down the discrimination. That commissioned women officers can already serve for a longer time, as long a time as the male counterpart. And army saying, no, we have pressure on necessity, we can't do that. They don't, a lot of questions to and forth will come. But the question is whether this is the justification of discrimination. Religion may take one view, public morality may take another view. Constitutional morality believes in equality of all persons. Take another. Which one is right? That's one question. And Attorney General Venugopal recently said that constitutional morality is a sad day in the history of India that the idea of CM was introduced. That will make judges our rulers. I remember I wrote about it. I said, Venu is a good friend of mine, but I can't agree with him. And he was graceful enough to say, basic structure and CM are both dreadful innovations that should go into Allah Sanji's lecture. And now he's graceful enough to say that basic structure should stay, but CM is updated. Now, what is CM without BS? Basic structure. Basic structure is all constitutional morality, meaning of the word amendment. What is this? So essentially, it's a conflicted narrative. I take the view that in matters of dignity and discrimination, matters of fraternity, judges should have the last word. So I want a society not based on discrimination, not based on oppression. And the Constitution believes in fraternity and replicability. So I believe that certain constitutional matters, values are expounded by judges. They might go wrong in exposition. We question them, correct them. But we cannot say they will not be ruled by, because simply one set of people, judges, we don't want to be ruled by. That is wrong. They are interpreting the Constitution. They are doing nothing else. That will only be governed by parliamentary sovereignty, but the parliament decides, right? So what was wrong with Mrs. Gandhi? They amended the Constitution during emergency to suit her interests, personally. And she said, I'm doing nothing wrong, I'm exercising power. Constitution is a discipline on that power. And somebody has to apply constitutional morality to power. And that in any system has to be judges. Iran had a council of elders, right, which Ayatollah decided in upper house, finally, what was Sharia. You can develop other mechanisms. But Ayatollahs could not decide, because Sharia did not deal with many matters like landlord-tenant law. The Majlis passed it, Ayatollah put it away for 2 years, 3 years. They don't say either it was contrary to Sharia or with conformity to Sharia. So they could not say it. The Quran said they did not contemplate landlord-tenant law. And many others. So 200 bills were lying with them. And Ayatollah Khomeini was the president of Iraq, said in a Friday prayer meeting Yet core Islam cannot be violated. Peripheral Islam can be changed. Now what is core and what is peripheral morality? I don't know. And you have examples where you tried other methods of religious leaders saying what is right and what is wrong. Here is All India Muslim Personal Law Board saying what is wrong, what is right. Women can't drive, says Saudi Arabia, which is relaxed. Women can't pray in a mosque. Maybe. So somebody has to research, that's my point. And CM falls in the direction of PM and in the direction of judges interpreting the Constitution. PM falls in the direction of statutory morality and civic morality. And PCM stands for social reformers who gave us an idea of social change and justice, like Vivekananda or others, or Kabir, go far back. And people like Saints and Sadhu. Even read thinkers like Amin Roy and others, they're pre-conscious morality. So essentially, this is the division in the four fields. Sorry, I took on so long, but that's what I understand.
It was more than convincing, sir. Thank you once again. Chanchal sir, would you like to add something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, Chanchal sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Sorry. Sir, I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
If you look at the liberal law, or rather, sir, entire social sciences, liberal social sciences, Homo Caesar of Agamben presents a very nice analysis how and it has developed so far till now. In terms of methodology, where it has reached the law or social sciences board. My question is, what appropriate methodology can be adopted or developed to study ancient literatures, including social practices, which can be from which insights can be derived or intuition can have from those practices or literature for solving today's problem. For example, today's education system, in a way, I believe that this is a separate but equal doctrine of American system, which is now totally prevalent in India. Some are paying millions of rupees for one school education per year. Some are getting a free education. So, but now, if you look at this idea of education, or simply the good of education as a social good or social resource, the ancient India, including till 19th century, a different manner in which it had been managed for 2000 or maybe millenniums in India. In that context, sir, I would like to ask how and what methodology can be appropriate for studying our own historical practices, ancient literature, from the point of view of deriving, constructing rules or standards of law.
Right. Thank you very much. I don't know. Everyone makes own sandwiches. I should say that's my answer, basically. But more academically put, first, please don't use the big word methodology. Mine stopped working. I have allergy to the word. It's introduced by ICSSR and UGC in India. But methodology is a word which deals with a science or the logic of scientific methods. It is not a toolkit. It's not a toolkit of methods from which you select interview or structured interview or other interview or an animal you deal with in research, it's called hypopotamus or hypothesis, something like that. So it's all methods you can select, but methodology, I know very few people who work in India or outside on the science.
Exactly, sir. I stand corrected, sir. Even I believe this, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So if you talk of method, which methods are appropriate to study uh, uh, things that have gone long before us and things which are going to come long after us? That's a very good question. So obviously we can't be in the past fully, no matter how hard we try. No matter how hard we try.
Mm-hmm.
We can't imbibe the values of our ancestors as they imbibe. So most of Hindu Dharma, for example, is not addressed to state, except the tradition of Arthasastra. Most of Hindu Dharma is addressed not to society at large. Bulk of Hindu Dharma is addressed to the Grahastha
Right.
Ashrama Dharma.
Ashram.
Bulk of. So it's a religion of not people, the religion of the householder. What a good householder should do. If you look at all the Dharma Sutras, Dharma Sutras, some are post Apadharma, emergency, that in a Gurukul, the Guru Patni is somehow always younger than the Guru. And the students are all adolescent students. The sexuality is just budding. Now, Manu goes out of his way when this problem was pointed out in Manu Sahinsa. There's a whole chapter reserving 56 or 65 varieties of hell for a student who is promiscuous in a Gurukul with Guru Patni. I don't know why, but I know why. But he has developed special helps for the students who the Guru Patni or commenters. It's apadharma, a dharma which threatens other dharmas, of self-discipline, of good behavior, of righteous behavior. This law of desire is a very powerful, desire is a very powerful force. And all dharmas are channeled to control the flow of desire. So, law itself is the engine of desire, all preambles and constitution, engine of desire for social change, and engine of desire for social control, both. The law has its own desire, different from religion and education and other institutions of society. Law has its own desires, they are called desires of law and desire for law. Other people expect the law to do for them. There are two kinds of desires. The study of law and desire is very important. Unfortunately, we pass by in law school, but dharma is precisely addressed to householder on how to control one's desires and channel them in the righteous course of action. Bulk of Dharma Shastras are about householders. How do we know? How do we know what householders are? They are all located in particular time and place. It will enormous. So there is no one method of knowing the past. There are several methods of knowing the past. Some people say all history is imaginary history, written either by conquerors or travelers, and you have this fantastic discourse in Ayodhya case, both by Supreme Court and by the judges in Uttar Pradesh High Court. three judges who differ on whether this Ram Chabutra and Ram Janmasthana was actually a place where Rama was born and by Sikh Thakur, and so on. So, the Muslim judge there to Hindu judges, and in the Ayodhya case, there is a separate unsigned judgment for the first time in the history of India. I hope for the last time. 100 page, 101 page, 21. I wrote in the Indian Express that as a citizen of India, I'm not bound by the judgment, which is not signed, but I will not read it. I have still not read it. The shrewd idea of the judge who wrote that judgment.
Yes.
How it happened, I don't know. I'm public. Nobody in India has pointed it out so sharply as I have. That's a different matter. Nobody read me for that reason also. It's also play the game. That's all right. I don't write always to be read by others. I write what I think is right. Relation between writing and being right can be done. So this is a relationship that comes in history. How do you write history? Who writes history? There's a whole discipline called historiography. And the whole discipline called futurology. You study ways of studying future to come. They're disciplines their own right. And therefore the method, that was a short question. Appropriate method will be, I would think, the disciplinary protocol that each discipline, archaeology has adopted, history has adopted. What's the relation between history and archaeology? Material culture, as I say, from non-material culture. They're very interesting. Imagine there's something that's now developed in the last 20 years called imaginary history. Supposing Cleopatra's nose was slightly twisted, would that have been the face that launched 1,000 ships like Mark Antony says about Cleopatra in Shakespeare's play? Probably not. The idea of beauty depends on what that. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So how does the nose, shape of the nose matter? That is true for God as well as for romantic love. Why is not true for law or anything else? So it is similarly archaeology, history set certain conventions for the practice of the craft. These are the methods. For example, periodization is very essential for doing history. We lost to understand periodization. We always very extraordinary discipline. We jump generation. You can't do it to a historian. Then there is subaltern history, which my friend, great man, Ranjit Guha established. And Ranjit Da used to say to me, and he wrote, he said, you must not write history like a daroga. The daroga writes history as law and order history. But the people who write history write from the point of view of their suffering and their discrimination, their violence. The subaltern history is different kinds. Each sub-period, a feminist history, focuses on how women were subordinated in the past. They say all histories are written among men or not. So they have different fields. So you have to select a method that is apt for your particular research in constitutional morality or law, whatever you. That's all I can say. You have to be disciplined. You don't have to invent method, but you have to be disciplined. I did a whole book called, a small book called Towards the Sociology of Indian Law in 1985, before you were born. That I can't help. It was a book which said, supposing a historian read law some bit of law. Or economists let some bit of law, no jurisprudence. Or anthropologists let some bit of law or jurisprudence. What difference would it make to law and the other disciplines, history, archaeology, anthropology? It was an exploration. I was able to show, for example, that there are differences when economists speak about a chapter on land reform relations there. And I show that they are lazy people in some respect, in respect we should not be lazy in law. For example, economists speak about loopholes in law. They never examine what I call loopholology or holology, which is what's the loophole? For a lawyer, every word and phrase matters, full stop, comma, everything. What is the loophole? It's a question only lawyer can ask. I began asking it. And I then said, what if economists ask this question? The result was fantastic by man. Nobody in India has read this book. Outside it's cited because it's all of lot of sources. I don't want to sell it to you, but if you have time, you have to look at it. I found loophole. In order to understand the idea of a loophole, we have to understand the idea of legislative purpose. So I looked at literature in law about legislative purpose. And I found the purpose, legislative rationality. Now, how do you gather legislative rationality? Purpose of the law. I found that somebody moved the law, Parliamentary Select Committee, somebody moved amendments. I have it, the Parliament says, law is passed. Whose intention is law's intention? Everybody can claim that more the amendment can, minister can, party can. But whose intention? Not that intention cannot be determined, but there are several intentions. Polycentric. Law, legislation, essentially polycentric. So like that I said, if you take sealing law to mean, and this work was on sealing, agrarian land sealing tax, the works I review. If you take an armchair view and say, sealing laws are all about redistribution, then efficiently farmland, horticulture, the exceptions that the law makes are loophole because they're not redistributive. Efficiently run farm goes for kulak. How are they redistributed? So I studied sorry for going on, but I studied the land selling act of states. And there I found the law specifically stated the idea of redistribution and the idea of efficient farming. Sealing had to be determined by these two ideas, redistribution, efficient farming. And it decided that in cases of exceptions, efficiently run farm, no land selling. Because we won't touch that farm because it's efficiently done. We won't grow more food. You want to make Mahatma labor.
That is a great example of Carl Smith's law rules by exception.
Yeah, very good, indeed. So in a sense, therefore, you have to work. So I said, if we economists were less lazy, understood some law, worried about this question, would or would not his or her approach to land selling change? And my answer from the legal side was change. So the book is called Towards the Sociology of Indian Law. Small survey. And I asked this question on different subjects. I won't bore you there. We're going there. But this is methods. You are the sovereign. You can select any method you like, provided you good reasons for exclusion and inclusion, and provided you stick with it, wherever it leads you. The methods are somewhat inconvenient, Because once you made your bed, you have to lie on it. You can't go here and there. So it binds you in certain way, whether you like it or not. So you select methods carefully, proceed. That is my short answer. And ultimately, other chaps would follow other methods and come to a different result. But those people who follow your method cannot come to a different result. They can only say you have yourself said, but they can't say that your methods are wrong. Because everybody is sovereign. But only thing that is not allowed, final sentence, is sitting in the armchair and doing research. That's not possible. You have to work for it. Earn every step, you have to win every step by a method. Logical application of the method you have chosen. What method you select is your choice. I have nothing to say about it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again. I think this has also given the right direction for the participants to choose their methods and then ponder as to how and in which direction they will be researching further. There were other questions and comments as well, but during this discussion, you have already answered those questions, sir. And would like to once again thank you for all the discussion and all the words of wisdom that you have shared with us. And we can only say one thing कि इस सेशन में यही मन कर रहा था कि समय शायद रुक जाता तो बातें चलती रहती, but that is not possible, you know. And therefore, once again, on behalf of HPNLU family, sir, we thank you, and we look forward to your words of wisdom again sometime in near future, sir. Thank you so
Sir,
much.
sir, before you
Thank you
part,
indeed.
sir, before you part, we would like a promise from you. The moment this COVID is gone or this movement is possible, we want you here for at least 1 week in the university at Shimla.
Oh my goodness, I will. It's a pleasure. It's long.
With Emma, ma'am, I'll be here, sir. There will be no problem. I'll take care of everything.
Thank you. Very kind of you. I would love to be in your company and meet your friends and faculty.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
And I hope we'll battle away this thing called this global menace called COVID very shortly.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.